For many players, getting to Diamond is the goal, but no matter how many seasons go by, you can't climb to it. But I've actually already helped hundreds of people climb to Diamond, so I'm gonna break down the 8 biggest things that are holding them all back, and this video will get you to Diamond as quickly as possible. But do me a huge solid and smash that like and subscribe button, and check out the Patreon down below for private coaching, and let's get into the video. Now, this mistake is easily correctable, but basically every single person underneath the diamond rank does it, and it's wasting abilities in the pre-fight. And this means before you and your team are actively engaging the enemy or having a full-on team fight, you're wasting valuable abilities. This could be something as simple as amping at a spawn instead of speed boosting at the choke, using a nade to heal yourself when you could have just backed up and let your passive do it. You need to understand that if the enemies are not in a position where they can easily press you and you're far enough away, the team fight isn't actively being engaged, and you don't need to be wasting a ton of cooldowns just trying to maintain your team health or your health state, because then when the fight actually starts, it's one less resource that you have to make a proactive play with, which is how you ultimately win team fights. Speaking of ultimates, a lot of players underneath the diamond rank are overly optimistic with their ultimates, and what I mean by that is they waste them. They waste them a lot. They like to ult in situations where it would actually need to be best case scenario for your ultimate to win the fight. This is like blading when you're already down 2 people, hypothetically, trying to get a crazy 4-man shatter in front of you, even though both your DPS are already dead. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go for these ultimates and absolutely carry fights, but it is important for you to understand that if you do these ultimates often, everything has to go right for you to be able to win the fight. And if you have time in the bank, it makes a lot more sense for you to just regroup with your team and try to use your ultimate in a situation where you're not at a huge disadvantage already, and your ultimate doesn't have to make up any ground. It just pushes you into the advantage category. Imagine if a team fight is 50-50, and every time you lose someone, you're losing 10% of that, and ultimates could maybe give you anywhere between 5 and 15%. But if you don't have anyone dead, then the ultimate is just putting you in the green, right? Now, the next thing that we need to talk about is super simple, but even Masters and Grandmasters players do this wrong, and it's effective range. Every single character has a range in which they're effective in, and oftentimes there's multiple ranges where they like to play in. Characters like Widowmaker have a very far effective range, and characters like Reaper have a relatively close effective range, and every single character is trying to put the opponent into their effective range and deny the enemy's effective range. And this is often tied to questions like, how do I deal with Genji on Zen? And the truth is, you have to play your range. You have to make sure that you never allow the Genji to enter in his effective range for free. And what I specifically mean is that Genji should be discorded, damaged, and respected whenever he pushes up positionally. And that's how you deal with the Genji, by never allowing him to set the terms of the engagement. And this is true for any character. If you're a Sigma up against a Rein, you're oftentimes distancing yourself so that Rein never gets to push up on you and set the terms of the engagement, as in force a brawl onto you. And you have to think about his tools to actually set up that close range engagement, like charge, where he could actually get in close, and even if you're backing up, he can catch you. So then you conserve your rock so that you can punish him and stop him from charging onto you and maintain your effective range. And he can play mind games with that and maybe try to stop midway, block the rock, and now you see the actual fight here is a battle of range, and you need to use your abilities to either set you up in a better effective range or maintain your effective range and deny the opponents. Now, the next thing that we need to talk about is the min and max of abilities. I want you to imagine something like an Onanade. What is the lowest amount of value you can get from it? Well, you could definitely miss, but if you're just healing yourself with it, that's a pretty low value. But what is the maximum value? What is the potential of an ability like this? You could nade like 4 or 5 people on the enemy team. You could get kills straight up with it. And the more times that you can use nade for its max value is going to win more fights than its minimum value. So you need to recognize why you're specifically not using it for those higher value plays. And oftentimes it directly ties into your positioning, because if you put yourself in a bad position on Ana and you're constantly under threat of yourself dying, then you're being forced to use these abilities very reactively. Every single time you use an ability that could have had a higher impact ceiling, but you were forced to use it for a much lower impact, then you need to evaluate the conditions that forced you to do that, so that in the next fight, you can actually use it for the plays that are going to win the game. Now, the next big thing that sub-diamond players don't do enough is just peel or help your team when they're in trouble. Here's the thing. Peeling is completely overpowered. If a Genji dashes on your DPS and you bail them out and save them with Suzu, Nade, or you just basically heal them and bail them out of that situation, not only did you keep your teammates alive, which allows you to beat up a person, but now that Genji that dashed on your teammate is fighting both of you and they have no dash anymore. So they're probably gonna die as well. You gotta understand that peeling is one of the easiest ways to punish enemies and just punish them for getting overeager, trying to secure a kill on someone that had the resources or support of you, as long as you actively try to peel. And you can peel on any role. DPS, tank, support, it doesn't matter, as long as you're just looking at what your teammates are going through when they're under attack and doing your best to bail them out of that situation, whether it's with damage or heals or denial. This is one of the best ways to carry, and sub-diamond players never do this consistently. Now, one of the biggest problems that I see is tunnel vision, and this is something that can affect pretty much players from any rank, and you have to just understand how valuable it is for you to stay alive. As long as you're alive, you can occupy space, deal damage, generate abilities just by time passing, and of course charge that ultimate. But oftentimes, players will put themselves in the situation where they are either going to pull off an oppressive play or die trying. And you see this really often with players chasing a Mercy around or jumping into the enemy team to deny res, making it so that if someone's low, they push up way too aggressively to try to get that kill, even though that kill is lost, and they definitely get a bit tilted. And you have to understand that while, yes, there are situations where if you had communication, if people were paying attention, or if you hit slightly more shots, you would have got that kill. But don't imagine what could have or try to force what could have. Play in the reality, and the reality is that kill might be lost. That kill might not be achievable, and ultimately you have to learn when to let something go. Now, the seventh thing that players that I've been coaching just don't do enough or at all is comboing freaking ultimates. Everyone just wants to tempo ult. Everyone wants to see a small situation in front of them. They want to see an isolated target and blade onto them. They want to nano the tank randomly. Everyone just wants to do things for tempo. And while tempo is very powerful, and what I mean by that is using your ultimate to kind of snowball and create momentum, you have to understand that combo is so freaking powerful for winning core team fights, which is something that when you are in the lower ranks, players don't do enough. Team fights are not won cleanly. A lot of times players will get picked, and then people will get counter picks, and then ultimates will be spent, and you'll either waste a ton of ultimates and not win the fight, or waste a whole bunch of ultimates that you didn't need. And setting up a duo or communicating, talking about a very specific combo and sticking to the plan, realize that unless you can guarantee destroy the entire enemy team by derailing from the combo or derailing from the plan, you shouldn't use it. You should save it. You should be more disciplined in the combo use, because otherwise you might risk using one half of a combo when the other person was waiting for you, not winning the fight. Now you have a second half of the combo that is also not going to win a fight by itself, and then you just outright lose. And the last but certainly not least thing that sub-diamond players do is they are fundamentally glued to objectives. Supports will be playing on the payload. You'll get 5 players stacking or everyone playing on the King of the Hill map. It doesn't really matter what the objective is. It's important for you to understand that the goal is always to win team fights. So if you're pushing up to take space, to deal damage, to spread out, to back away from the objective so that you're less susceptible to enemies shooting you and using ultimates on the objective and killing you ultimately, these are things that are okay. And you might be saying, hey, I can't give away this payload. I can't give away this Koth map. I can't give away this objective because it's my job. It's our job to capture it. That's true. but time is a resource. And at the end of the day, if you win the team fight, it doesn't matter because the enemies will be dead and you can take the objective right afterwards. So an Ana that rides the cart all the way to the end of third point only to get ult dumped when they should have backed away from the cart towards the end and put themselves in a better position to survive, that is what's going to aid in you winning a team fight, as opposed to you just arbitrarily staying on this objective for no value, putting yourself at risk. And this is true for not just supports, but for any character. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is winning that team fight. But anyways, if you have any questions, definitely let me know down below. I have private coaching also in my Patreon. Links will be in the description. But thank you so much for coming by, and I'll see you next time.